Hello and welcome to a little video. There's been requested by a few people when we're doing cups of tea, etc. People keep saying, how do you think Pellegrini is going to line up this season? It's quite difficult to answer in 2 or 3 minutes, so we're doing a video specifically about how we think Pellegrini is going to line up this season. Now, you might be thinking, how are you going to show us? Well, we actually have a camera set up. We have a little board here, camera set up, as you'll see now on your screen. We're going to move all these about, and we're going to show you what we think Pellegrini is going to do. Over pre-season, I think since Fornals, Lanzini and Anderson's been fit, I think we've been lining up with the 4-2-3-1.
Yeah,
mainly. I think this is what I've always thought. This is what Pellegrini wants to play.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's the best formation for West Ham.
Sure.
But we'll get your opinion on that. But I think this is how we'll set up majority of games next season.
Yeah.
This back four, I think we can probably leave. It's not going to change.
I think by and large most people agree with back four at this point.
It's not going
Like
to change.
you can make an argument about the left back here or there, or who starts at right back or whatever.
Yeah,
but the back four in general.
The back four is back four. I think he's going to have Rice sitting as always.
Yeah.
And I think whoever plays here has got, I think,
job.
The most important job in the team. I think. He doesn't turn up, whoever that may be.
Yeah.
He doesn't turn up. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I think when you look at modern day football, the fullbacks are obviously the most important roles in modern day football. And I think, when you look at a team who are as attackingly strong going forward, but defensively frail, like you say, whoever is sitting next to Rice in this role, be it Sanchez, be it Noble, be it whoever, has a Wilshere, it's a huge task. Because if they, like you say, if they don't turn up, then all of a sudden he is by himself and all of these people are exposed. Because Rice, as good as Rice is, can't do literally everything by himself.
The last two friendlies we've seen Lanzini, Fornals, Anderson. Anderson's moved out into the right. Do you think he'll stick with that for this season in general?
Potentially, yeah. I think Lanzini, to me, in my head and from the experiences we had for his first season here, when Payet was playing a lot in this role, and he was playing out here and they switched quite a lot, that's where I feel most comfortable with him. Whereas Anderson, as a natural wide player, I feel like could play either role. As much as this is his position, and at Lazio he was playing even deeper sometimes, playing as almost a wing back, I think that is the sensible way round to go, especially at the beginning when people are trying to figure out this sort of combination, these sort of, if you think about these four here, sort of that combination of people.
What do you think is Anderson's best position? Just Felipe himself.
I think his best position is left wing.
So do you think he's been compromised if he does start out in the right?
Yeah, I do actually. I think he's compromised, but I think not so significantly as it would hamper his game completely. As if you were saying playing, I don't know, Antonio at right back. It's not that sort of level of compromise, but it is certainly one, because I do think his best position is here. I know a lot of people talk about him down the centre. And I see that argument and I see where they're going with it. But for me, that's his position. That's always been his position. It's where I think he actually plays best. I see the argument for here, but I think by and large that's where he plays best. But when you're talking about how many attacking players we have, I mean, we're talking about potentially playing attacking players here. That's how many we've got. I think you have to compromise somewhere, and I think that's, although a compromise is the least compromise out of all of them.
I think Pellegrini had a hard decision as to who gets this role between Lanzini and Anderson. And going by pre-season, it is only pre-season we're judging on here.
Of course, yeah.
Lanzini scored 3 in his last 3.
Yeah.
So Pellegrini's argument is, I'm getting 100% out of Lanzini here, maybe 70% out of Anderson here. If I switch them round, I might only get 85% Anderson and 70% Lanzini. So I think he maybe thinks Lanzini's better than Anderson in this position, and that's why he'd put him there. Or he thinks Anderson's better than Lanzini here, and it's worth it. I think it's just interesting he's moved Anderson over to the right.
I think it's interesting as well because there was obviously a lot of talk about Fornals coming in, and whereas I believe Fornals would be playing here, and sort of that seems to be what's kind of going on at times. Obviously in the under-21s, which was a lot of people's first exposure to him, he was playing out wide a lot of the time. Now I think that's because Dani Ceballos, who's just gone to Arsenal, was playing in this position and was basically player of the tournament, to be honest, so you're not going to shove him out. But I think that's probably interesting as well, that you might see Fornals in that, and I think that sort of fluid three behind Haller is really interesting to me, because they all sort of can play those positions.
Yeah, I think they can all swap, which is massive, and it's going to be difficult. But I think, general speaking, rule of thumb, I think that's how they'll line up. Does it worry you we know how Pellegrini likes his fullbacks to play. Does it worry that essentially going forward, mainly when we're counter-attacking, but there is times when we go forward that Lanzini and Anderson are going to be asked to come in a little bit. Masuaku, Creswell, Fredericks is going to ask to come forward. It's a very offensive situation you have on your hands there.
But I think the key to unlocking that is Haller. Because when you look at him at Frankfurt, he had Jovic, he had Rebic, he had a lot of people around him helping him out. It wasn't just him by himself. He wasn't a lone number 9 by any stretch of imagination. Although he is a focal talent in his size and his physicality, that's not... He's not Andy Carroll, you know? So what my concern was when we brought him in was getting people close to him, getting people in and around him to really unlock that potential. We saw that with Andy Carroll. Arguably his best period was when he had Kevin Nolan basically up his backside. And so that was what was most concerning to me. So actually, although we've seen in fan cams that we've spoken about and we've spoken to people on the boats today, they feel like this area is very congested when you've got these three, you've got Haller there, you've got Wilshere coming forward, and you have these two like this. That actually really excites me, because all of a sudden, balls into his feet or in his head, he's got all of these people to lay it into, and then we can move from there. And that actually really excites me. As congested it is, and as offensive as that is, and it is too offensive, especially against teams who maybe we struggled to break down last year, for example Wimbledon, I think that's going to be unbelievably effective.
I think it's important that you congest the area, because too often we see the ball get crossed and there's one guy to aim for, he doesn't get it, attack over.
Exactly.
But now the cross goes wrong, you've got these three who can maybe get on the end of it. They're not great in the air, these three players. Lanzini, Anderson, Fernandes, I wouldn't fancy any of them to score more than 2 headers between them next season.
Yeah, of course.
But they're there for the knockdowns. We've seen against Bilbao, we've seen Lanzini's goal. It come from an overhead kick by Fernandes, which came off Haller. Made connection, not the right connection, and it landed at Lanzini's feet. Bang, goal.
Overloads are really important. People tend to stress, like, one-on-ones are what are really exciting, let's be real. When Anson runs down the thing, sees a player, takes him on. When Antonio runs down the wing, sees a player, takes him on. But if you've got one defender here, and all of a sudden you've got 2 people here and another one here, that guy is screwed. Because all of a sudden they have options. They can do things. Overloads are seriously important. And this area of the pitch, we are going to overload people horrendously.
It's what Pellegrini did at City. Pellegrini, it's important to, when I was watching Bilbao, Anderson and Fredericks are doing it. Fredericks is coming up. Well, Anderson was coming in, and the left back was sort of thinking, well, do I go or do I stay with him? And then him and the centre back sort of discussing who to mark him. Generally in football, the wingers are quite lazy at tracking back, generally. Okay, so Fredericks gets away from his man, he's out here. The left back's suddenly thinking, hang on a minute. And all Fredericks needs is a 2-second head start, and suddenly he's in line with Haller, and everybody's running into the box and stuff. I think that's mouth-watering at this, but everybody's got a massive role. But I do still come back to this centre midfielder here. This guy, whoever it is, it's going to be Wilshere when the season starts. Is huge, because in my worry is we don't have anyone to replace Jack Wilshere. I know people point at Noble, and I like Noble. I think there's a place for Noble in the squad, but we've seen Noble and Rice centre midfield last season and it didn't work. It wasn't athletic enough. It wasn't enough movement. The teams are getting through them, and it worries me that we don't have a replacement for Jack Wilshere.
We don't have anyone as dynamic as that, sure. You play Noble there, you play Cullen there even, you play Sanchez there, there's nowhere near the dynamism, because we saw it against Bilbao, where Bilbao pressed really well. They got really, at times our defenders and our midfielders and our strikers looked completely lost against their press. Wilshere has that ability, and we've known this about him for years. It's been his bread and butter almost. They were trying to press him, and with one touch he'd be past them. He would drift past people. It's something we've spoken about. There's this idea of we need this athletic player, and that is true. I do think we could use another athletic sort of defensive midfield type player. But Wilshere has the quality to avoid press through sheer ability, through sheer touch, through sheer class. He doesn't necessarily need to muscle a guy out of the way like, say, Kouyaté would. He can just drift past him. And like you say, we don't have anyone who is that classy, to use a term.
No role for Noble in here, would you say?
Noble's role is that. Let's be real. One of these people get injured, you see Wilshere go forward, Noble's the one who takes that role. And
I could see that. I think the other formation we could see is the 4-3-3, which, to be honest, I actually thought we were maybe leaning to until the last couple of friendlies.
So did I, yeah.
When Fernandes wasn't with the squad, and we sort of had Hernandez in this role for friendlies, I thought we were heading for this formation. I thought this was going to be Declan. I thought we were going to have Noble, Wilshere. An argument for Lanzini or Fernandes coming into one of these roles. I thought maybe it would be Wilshere, Rice and Lanzini perhaps, and I thought Fornals, because going by what La Liga journalists and pundits said about him being a bit lazy, chat back, I thought, right, it's better to have him up the pitch a bit more. So that would be Fornals. Anderson in his best position, I think, and then the striker. But the end of the pre-season, we've been edging towards 4-2-3-1, but I do still think we'll see enough of 4-3-3, especially if we're winning a game. I think Fornals or Lanzini going off for Noble,
it congests the pitch in a different area, right? All of a sudden you're going from congesting the pitch here to congesting it here. And so all of a sudden
you force them down the sides. You force them. It could be a bad thing though.
I mean, for us it could be, but all of a sudden the cam becomes a lot less effective.
Maybe we need to congest the sides and force them in the middle to stay away from our fullbacks.
Potentially, but that's when these people come into play, right? Yeah. Now, for all the stick Anderson gets, I think he's good at tracking back. I don't care what.
I think he's okay. He's not. It's more than Premier League wingers who I think he's good.
Right, that's fair. That's a fair way of putting it. And again, I disagree with most people. I think Yarmolenko is actually okay at it. I don't think
he'll play.
That's fair. I don't think during pre-season we've seen it, but I think the games we saw him during the actual season last year, I think he was actually pretty good at it. Antonio can do it, but doesn't. And that's when these two become incredibly important, because you push them out wide and all of a sudden they're getting overloaded on. How often do we see our left back get overloaded on?
Well, when we're playing this formation, I think the importance of the role in the fullbacks becomes greater, because you're almost missing someone in attack. Now, this guy here, who we just spoke about earlier, is going to have to get up. Yeah. But I do think it'll be Wiltshire, Rice, and maybe Lanzini. I think it'll be Lanzini's job to get up in there. Maybe even Wiltshire as well. Then all of a sudden we've got an extra player attacking.
Or potentially Noble and Lanzini.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden Lanzini's
but I do think this is where the fullbacks will be asked to get up quick, so that Anderson and Fornals can get in tight.
Yeah.
When Pellegrini was at Man City, let's go back to this 4-2-3-1. This will be the last point I make, and then we'll start wrapping this one up, because we're going to make a long video. When Pellegrini was at City, that I've never really noticed too much at West Ham until now. And when you're talking about congestion, it's an interesting point, because Pellegrini used to like to sort of try and move the ball over into a certain area and try and commit players. But this guy here usually, or he would tuck in there, and the other fullback would get up, and he would like to switch the ball quick. Yes. The ball would go from here to here with 2 touches, 2 passes to this guy and out. Then all of a sudden, you gain a lot of the pitch when there's no one in front of you and stuff. And that's something I've been waiting to see with West Ham, with Pellegrini. And I don't think we've seen it much, whether it's because of the players or because Pellegrini's maybe adapted his tactics over the years and stuff. I don't know. So I think this year we might see a little bit of old school Pellegrini. Do you think we'll see the 4-4-2? People keep saying, I wonder if. Aller, with Jovic last year, he had Rebic as well, but Aller likes playing with a partner. We often say Hernandez needs a partner. Do you think we'll see this, or do you think this is too open in midfield?
That's sort of where it falls down for me. I understand the argument, and I think it might be the key to unlocking Hernandez specifically. But the idea that Haller needs a partner, I think, is wrong. We saw against Bilbao again, that congestion around him really helps. And there were times where we utterly dominated the field up the top, completely and utterly dominated the field. Like, Bilbao was struggling to get at us because we had so many people in and around Haller that it's almost like he doesn't need that partner, because he was creating chances himself, he's creating space himself, people are creating space for him. So it's not as vital for Haller, but I think it is vital for Hernandez, unfortunately. So maybe we will see it, but if we were to play it, to be honest with you, I would be a bit concerned, because like you say, a team with 3 come up in the middle of the park and then all of a sudden we're screwed, because you've got Rice and you've got, say, Wilshere, Noble, whoever it is next to him, and they, as a 2, whoever is in that 2 role, get a bit overrun, in my opinion.
I think the 4-4-2, I think we'll see plenty of, only when we're losing. I think when we're getting beat, I think he'll turn. I actually think we might see Antonio up front quite a lot as well.
I was going to say this. I think Antonio might have a new lease of life under Haller as well, because, again, as long as he's not the person feeding the ball to him, I trust Antonio really. One of the things I said this in the review for Bilbao, and that was Antonio. One of my praises of him is that he gets into good positions. His movement is very good, and if we're getting the ball to Haller, whether it's in the air, on the feet, it doesn't matter. Antonio can make the runs into the box, make the interesting runs, and Haller is smart enough and good enough and strong enough to hold a person off and find him, and then all of a sudden you've got Antonio 1v1, where I'm still not massively confident he's going to score, but I'm at least more confident with that. And so, especially if we're playing off 4-3-3 and he's in and around that box, if it's 4-4-2, getting in there and playing up front with Haller, I think that could be a really good option. But I wouldn't prefer. It's not my preferred option, but I think it is.
It's just who you think will start, not who you want to see start against City. We'll cover that in the Man City preview. Who do you think Pellegrini will name? Fabianski in goal, Fredericks, Balbuena, Diop. We'll come on to left back. Wilshere, Rice, Anderson, Fornals, Lanzini, Haller. Is it that straightforward for 10?
Yes, I would have. I think I would have made an argument for Noble.
Noble's going to miss it.
Exactly. If he was fit, I think he would have had that opportunity because against a big team, I think lots of people talking about Noble. Lots of people talking about Noble.
Who would you leave out then? I know you're going to put Noble in. What, you would drop Wilshere? You think he would take out Wilshere? I think he would take out Fornals, to be honest with you.
I would potentially make an argument, especially because he's the newest person there.
I think it also lands in his pre-season form means he has to stay. Anderson's last season form means he goes in.
Yeah, that's
I think Fornals would be the one that's
and
like
Wilshere takes up that role. Yeah, I
don't think he would do that. I think he would play 3 in the middle. I think he would say let's go 3 against 3. Then next week Brighton away, that's when we put Fornals in.
I think the thing is with Noble, there's a lot of conversations in the moment about will Noble play? Is Noble's time done? Of course he will. And in games against Man City, that's sort of when you want him to play because he is that guy.
This position, I've always thought it was going to be Masuaku, but the last couple of pre-season games he started Creswell, and it makes me think.
Despite giving Masuaku a new contract, yeah.
But he's not sold Creswell, so to me, giving someone a new deal and not selling a player's similar.
I know what you mean.
Because Creswell's just not in a position for a new deal, so that's, Creswell had a year to go. I think he would have got a new deal as well. So who do you think he'll start?
A 5-year deal does denote, or at least suggest that he wants him to be his number one guy. But I do agree.
But Pellegrini's only got 2 years left, so.
True.
Pellegrini can't say, I see him playing here in 5 years' time, because Pellegrini's not going to be here in 5 years.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
As it stands. So I think it's a club tying down a money value asset. Yeah,
makes sense.
I understand that. Who do you think he's going to go for?
Against City specifically?
Yeah.
Trying to get a skipper in the evening to cover for you. This is last night, yeah?
Cresswell.
I think he'll go Creswell too. I think this will be the starting 11 for Man City. Who's going to be our 3 most important players? If this is our sort of basic 11, blueprint 11, who's going to be the most 3 important players next season? I'm going to go Wilshere, Rice, Fabianski.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's definitely a shout to be made. I think Fredericks has a big question mark over him right now, for me personally.
Yeah.
I think if he proves himself, he becomes a very important player just because of the nature of that position and how exposed at times
I think
both
there's a replacement for him. I think they can replace each other to an extent. Yarmolenko, there's an argument for the striker. He would be my 4th choice. But I do think,
in that sense,
I think his role's massive. I don't want to see Sanchez. Fabianski's hammer of the year, crucial.
The reason I say him is because either fullback has
who
a
else
barnstorming season.
Fredericks and who? 2 others.
Rice and I would go Fredericks, Rice and Haller actually. I think Fabianski is as important as he is going to be. I think the people ahead of him are almost more important because we know what he is, we trust him, and he will. I believe he will make those saves. But I think you look at him; he is the key to unlocking all of this, in my opinion. And then again, if he can nail down that position and make him a Premier League right back, that's monumental for us.
Fantastic. Right, let's wrap this one up, shall we?
Well then, here you go. Which player this season, circle them, do you think will let us down?
Out of them lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this video. Manuel Pellegrini's insight. Well, I say Manuel Pellegrini. It's Geo and Charlie's insight into Pellegrini's tactics. What we think he will do, not what we want him to do. What we think he'll do. Let us know in the comments below if you agree with us or disagree with us. What you anticipate him doing for the season. That's what we think is the blueprint. 4-2-3-1. We think we'll see that most this season. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. And we've got loads of content this week and next week. So come back soon.